Yeah.
Anybody for public participation? Yeah. Mr. Carney?
Yes, Ms. Brodsky, I appreciate your time. Being as you're going to discuss preliminary budget this evening, I'm here to comment about potential for purchasing a new fire engine. I understand you are attempting to get a grant, but in light of the possibility, which is high, that you will not get a grant, is there a plan B? And if there is not a plan B, would you please establish a plan B? And if you do not need plan B, that money would be available to deduct to other capital expenses such as broken down bucket truck, dump truck, borough hall, etc.
We've made a capital improvement list for Mr. Pacenti to look at, and as far as I know, we're still paying on one of the fire trucks, so getting a loan right now for a fire truck until that one's paid in full is not going to be able to happen.
I understand that.
So as soon as that one's paid off.
Common sense would dictate, and this is not your responsibility alone, this goes back several administrations. Once a piece of apparatus is paid off, the borough council should common sensely continue putting that amount of money away in a capital expenses fund for the purpose of replacing that piece of apparatus that you just finished paying
Well,
off.
apparently that wasn't done
I
previously,
understand that.
so
and I
I'm
would ask-
working on doing that now.
Okay, I would appreciate, we would all appreciate it if you could work on something like that. Thank you.
All right, Joe, you ready?
Yes. What I'd like to do is to present the 2014 preliminary budget, and then after I give a brief synopsis of what I'm trying to do, open up to questions from the public and council. And then interrupt me anytime you have a question during the proceeding. I mean, so you don't forget at the end. After this, if this is passed tonight, we have 10 days for the public to get copies of it and review it before we can pass the final. And hopefully we'll be able to pass the final at our December 18th meeting. All right, Mark. First of all, the good news is to balance this budget, we're not going to need any kind of tax increase, any real estate tax increase to balance the budget. I feel pretty comfortable with that right at this time. Projected for a preliminary income of 2014, roughly $3,960,000. What that encompasses is, with the real estate taxes staying current, where I'm also suggesting we keep the 0.5% earned income tax to use in a capital reserve fund to fix some of the things that this gentleman was talking about, fire trucks, building projects, and so forth. So I'm recommending that stays there. I budgeted roughly $525,000 for the EIT at 0.5%. Our business privilege tax with the new hire of RRS is up. I'm budgeting $315,000 for that, and the LST tax, the $52 a head, is up. Also, Keystone has done a very good job of collecting that. I am suggesting for our use and occupancy, the owner occupied as well as the rentals, that we go from $100 to $150. Just for the fact is, and we'll be able to cover our costs with $150. That's not a revenue producer. What that does is it offsets our costs. We can't use that as a revenue generator, but it'll help offset some of our costs that we're incurring by, inspecting these properties and so forth, as well as our police calls out for problems with landlords and so forth. Moving on, our biggest thing in the income is our taxes. That's the local enabling taxes and the real estate taxes. Kathleen Kelly's done a very good job of collecting our real estate taxes. We probably get another big hit in December. And the good people of Falkirk Borough do a good job paying their taxes. We have a low delinquency rate in this borough, which is a credit to the people that live here. I roughly use about a 7 to 8% delinquency rate when I'm calculating the net mill, and that's pretty darn good considering this economy. People pay their taxes in this town. Also, we also collect our sanitation fee. Our contract with Suburban Waste will remain the same, so our trash fee will remain the same in 2014 at $175 per year. We're not going to change that. The county is looking at possibly increasing their sanitation fee, but not this year. Possibly next year. We right now pay $33 a ton. If we can get to a point where we're recycling a lot more, that cost will go down. So hopefully people will start recycling more in town, and we won't take as much trash to the dump as we currently do. Our miscellaneous revenue, that's money that's not allocated in the line items above it. That would be like cops out on workers' comp, our reimbursement, any kind of grant money, anything that's not attributable to any of the income items above. Our building permits, keeping them roughly at $39,000. I wish that would go up, but right now that's based on a historical view. We've only collected about $33,000 so far this year. Hopefully we can get some building somewhere in town. The key going forward is, I'm hoping with MRRS as well as Keystone that they're going to go into the industrial parks. I think there's a lot of money sitting in the industrial parks that we're not collecting yet. There's so many businesses down there. I don't know if we have a handle on all of them, but hopefully with our tax collectors now into their second year of collecting our taxes, they'll have a better feel for the borough, and we'll be able to even increase those numbers higher than what I have. I was pretty conservative with my numbers. And then what we're hoping to do is, what I'm suggesting is, if we have a surplus at the end of this year, use some of it to balance the budget, and then have, by resolution, put it in a reserve fund that you only can move it by resolution. Like you can't have a vote. It have to be a resolution, maybe a public hearing to move that money to do work on this building, possibly buy new equipment, whether it's for the fire company or the borough's highway department, and also any kind of work in town for parks and playgrounds and stuff. But it's got to be attributed just to capital projects, not for balancing the budget, not for buying office supplies and stuff like that. And I think that's been real important. I'll move on to the. Anybody have any questions with the income? I know I'm going a little fast, but
The UNOs,
yes.
150.
Yeah, I'd like to go on.
Based on what?
Based on some of the costs involved with that. I'm trying to.
I know based on our cost, but what about like surrounding areas? Did we look like,
Well, I know in a few of the towns that they're 150. In other provinces at 200. And the only issue you have is you could have some landlords that want to fight it. Darby Township, I think, Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, did they go up to 200 or 150?
Darby Township's up to
200, and they've had some issues. Upper Darby tried to do it a few years ago, and there was going to be a lawsuit. They backed off. So I've checked different towns. Everybody's between 100 and 200. Nobody's over 200. We'd be right in the middle. And where it is, our costs are going up for the inspection process. That our police calls are greater there, and as well as our administrative costs. So I can justify the increase if need be.
okay.
And like I said before, I'm not doing it to increase revenue because I can't do that. All this is offsetting some of our costs in the code end. Any other questions? Okay, moving on to expenses.
Oh, wait a minute, back up.
Okay.
Earned income tax.
Right.
Don't you have to pass an ordinance to rescind an ordinance?
That I don't know. Me personally, I'd have to find that out. I'm just saying we need to keep it.
Oh, I realize that, but I think to rescind one, you have to pass, I don't think there's enough time because it has to be in Harrisburg by December 15th to make it effective January 1st. Because last year it didn't get in there on time, and I'm still paying 1%.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess if it's listed.
It's
I'm
gotta
not
get
sure.
the DCED by December. I mean, I only know because when we passed it the year before, it had to be there in December
Yeah,
to
they
take
keep-
effect January, so.
Keystone reached out to me and asked if we were changing it, and I said, under me, we had a preliminary site. They talked to me a couple days ago. I said no, it wasn't going to change if they follow my recommendation, and that was all she said. She said that's fine. I don't know about the ordinance. That's something I have to check with. You have to check with Ray or John and Elliot. I'm not sure how
Yeah,
that
we
works.
passed that last year, didn't we? That-
Yeah,
all
you
fact.
say
It's
0.5.
done.
I don't
You
think
passed an
that
ordinance to
there's
rescind the-
nothing changes, then it doesn't have to.
I-
You
no,
passed an
you
ordinance
passed
to
that-
rescind our ordinance, so now you have to pass an ordinance to reinstate it,
You
because
passed it-
January 1st,
2014, it
abolished.
was done away with completely.
so there's no income coming in January, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
And there's not
that's
enough
how you
time to
did
get it in Harrisburg to get money out of people in
And we went to
January.
0.5
We
in
have to bring it up next
2013,
week then. It can-
and then in 2014, it's
And then you gotta
done,
advertise.
gone.
What I'm saying is it's gotta be in Harrisburg by December
The ordinance
15th
has to be in Harrisburg?
for it to take effect
Right.
on their registers for January 1st.
Yeah, check that. Well,
Because ours went up late, it didn't go up until January last year, and they didn't change the register until June 15th. Because now the registers say it's off 0.5%, but the school district's still taking a % out,
Joe, you had
Yeah, I know,
mentioned that
Joe.
the people would get that
savings account.
.5 back at tax time.
If they overpaid, yes.
From who did he get it back?
Keystone, and that's an issue we have too. I don't know how that's going to affect our collection rate because I don't know how many other Miss French. I don't know how many other people are paying the 1%.
I am.
Okay, so
Yeah.
when you go to file your return, you'll say that you paid you made 30 grand, paid $300. In theory, you should only paid 150. You get 150 back.
So in other words, that's coming from Keystone, not from us.
Well, that's what that's what we're going to have to discuss with them. I don't know where that comes from. I don't know how much money they hold when they collect it. And, in the first quarter of last year, all that money that came in for us, that was at 1% because that was the fourth quarter of.
Well,
Wasn't
that
paid
could
in
affect
January.
the budget too, right?
Yeah,
It possibly
will we
could, but
have to-
I
will
was
we have to
conservative
show
with
that?
I was conservative with the number.
Okay.
I mean, the 500,000 I think we're collecting. I think I'm conservative with. So, but I don't know because we told Keystone in January that it was 1%. The DCED never changed it, but Keystone knew that.
Right, because the ordinance has to be there by December
But I
15th.
talked to Karen O'Neill.
Yeah,
We
I
talked to
know.
them early, and they still didn't change it. So,
Well, you figure that 500,000 on .5, right?
yeah, because 2 years ago we had the 1%. We collected over $1 million, and that was with Centex. Now with Keystone, our numbers are way up. So I'm actually concerned. I think we might get more than the 500,000, possibly, because the Keystone's doing a much better job of collecting it than Centex ever did.
Why are you keeping it at .5? Why don't you bring it back up to 1?
That's not my because I can do the budget with
It's not his
0.5.
decision.
Yeah.
I know that.
I mean, I'm just
but
recommending.
saying,
I'm recommending you keep it just because we need to
I
develop
think we
a
should
fund
consider it,
balance.
so, honestly, if we're in this much of, we need a lot of things, it really doesn't hurt you. It doesn't, 1%.
That's something for you guys to
But even
discuss.
bringing it back, you got a problem because it's
I
not.
sent a text to Raymond to see if he can call in.
Okay.
Maybe we can get him on speaker.
Yeah, I mean, if we're gonna
When we
keep
get the
it,
meeting.
let it go for what it was.
Yeah, I mean, you have a lot of options to do things with it, absolutely. Because now with the way it's collected, people have it without either pay. You got a lot sitting in an industrial park, I'm telling you.
Right,
There's
you're
some big
used to
time.
it, and
Plus, the people understand why we put it in too now, where we didn't explain ourselves. We really didn't.
people
Well,
are more
it's,
educated.
it's the most it's the most equitable tax because people that aren't working, senior citizens don't pay it.
Right, absolutely.
Students really don't pay because of the minimal amount. So people that are working, making money, pay it. And also, some of the towns that have it, that you work in, we're getting that money, we're not losing the money.
Like, if you're gonna go for keeping it in, say, at .5, why the hell give Sharon Hill .5? Have it all come back to Fulcroft.
Something to talk about, You'd have more options to do things on the expense side.
It's just the timing.
Yeah,
Can I ask a question, Ray?
goodness, we need it.
Just to follow up on what they said as far as people that overpaid. Now, if you have a person that lives in Fulcroft and works in Fulcroft, okay, let's say they make $40,000 for the year. Their EIT for the year is $400,
Right.
okay? Fulcroft got their $400. Fulcroft owes that person $200.
Yeah, the
Keystone doesn't owe them.
No, Keystone don't pay it. What happens is that's what I'm trying to figure out. They may reduce what they're submitting to us by that amount.
Are they
So-
gonna be cutting a check for everybody that? is-
I don't know how many people. That's what we're trying to figure out. We've talked about this. We don't. I'm not sure how many people are getting the 1% taken out.
So following on that, so if Keystone is going to credit them basically part of the $500,000 that you're projecting, we're not going to get because it's going to be part of the correction.
No, yeah, but the 500. What I'm saying is the $500,000 I'm factoring in based on what we collected this year. I'm
Raymond?
factoring in that some of that's going to come out. We're not
Hi,
going
are
to get
you
the full
able
amount.
to talk to
I
us?
actually could
Put you on
budget like
speaker?
7.
Yeah.
We have a
Well,
question regarding.
how much
the
total
tax
EIT
ordinance.
did we get for the year 2012? What was our total
Okay, I'm
take for
gonna put you on
It was
2012?
over $1 million.
Over $1 million?
Yeah,
All right, Ray's on the phone.
and that was with
All right.
Centex collecting for
Okay.
half of the year.
All right, are you there? Can everybody hear him? For the most
I know.
part?
We just have to be quiet.
So Raymond, what complications would we have in keeping the earned income tax at the .5 if it has to be in Harrisburg by the 15th?
I don't think there's any complication.
Well, tell them about the ordinance.
How do we get the ordinance to, because the ordinance has to be in Harrisburg by December 15th. How do we get that taken care of and into Harrisburg in
Your
a
ordinance, your EIT is still in effect until December 31st. You're gonna, if you want to pass an ordinance, you can pass an ordinance and it'll be in there thereafter. I mean, there's no, it's gonna be what it's gonna be. You're fine.
So-
you wanna keep it in, just dash your ordinance as your schedule.
If we bring it up in committee, do we have to advertise it?
Sure you do. It's an
Okay,
ordinance.
so if we advertise it, if we put it in to be advertised to reinstate the 5% or the point,
You're not reinstating it.
No.
All you're doing is, all you need to do, if you wanna keep it in, is delete the sentence of the ordinance that you passed last year that repeals it.
okay, and then just
So you're
pass,
basically going to adopt an ordinance to amend the ordinance that you adopted
You're
last
making
year.
an amendment, you're not bringing up a new one.
so in other words, it's an amendment to the ordinance that we adopted.
Just like you did with the police pension.
You're doing another ordinance, amending the ordinance that you passed last year.
Okay,
Does it have to be advertised?
does it have to be
It's
advertised?
not an amendment.
Of course, everywhere, that's the
Yeah.
other.
Okay,
When you do your, aren't you gonna do your ordinance for your tax levy and everything else, they do it all at the same time, right?
yeah, so we would just do it all at the same,
Yeah, where did the December 15th date come from?
Mary Ann gave us that date from, she said it has to be into Harrisburg by December 15th.
I don't know, I mean, I would like to see that, I don't know that that's the case, but, you know, I would like to see that.
It's on newpa.com, it's on their website.
I'm not really sure where that date comes from,
Okay,
but I would be happy to look at it if somebody sent it to me. I would just do it, if you can't do it by December 15th, you can't do it, December 15th, but it'll get done. I
okay,
don't know what she's talking about, that has to be, and you already have a rate set, so I'm not really sure what the December 15th date is.
okay, it's on newpa.com.
That's when they update the
Well,
register.
I'm not really,
That's what they
I'm not really
say.
sure what that means, but like I said, I would be happy to take a look at it.
Okay.
Everybody adopts their things by December 15th. You have to adopt your, budget until December 31st, so, I mean, I don't know what that means, but, like I said, I'll be happy to take a look at it. Right now, I would just ask, tonight, just ask the preliminary budget to get authorization to advertise all the ordinances, right?
Okay,
And we just move forward from there,
okay.
okay?
Everybody get that? All right, thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
The only problem I have with that is if it doesn't get there in time, and your employer doesn't take your 0.5% out, you're gonna get hit at the end of the year. Because it's not coming out
But
of
if,
We can call them too, just tell them we're not changing anything, we're filing an ordinance.
DCED,
Yeah,
it's gotta go to DCED.
We'll call them, we're not, since we're not changing the ordinance, I mean,
Right.
I don't even know if they're aware that we're gonna abolish it December 31st. I don't know if they're even aware of that, because I told Keystone we're keeping it as long as the budget gets passed based on our recommendation. 'Cause they
But
asked-
you are changing it, right, Joe?
When they asked if we were gonna go to zero, and I said, I'm not recommending that to Keystone, I said, we'll get back to them. So I assume we can call, say we're doing the proper protocol with the ordinance, and just say we're not, we're following the ordinance now, and just, we'll call by December 15th and see if that's okay. If they physically need the ordinance, they're not gonna have it by December 15th. If it's-
Right,
They can
right.
have it, but it's not legit yet, because it's advertised for the 30 days. But I can call them tomorrow and find out what the scoop is, why break. Any other questions? Okay, moving on to the expenses. The first one, you look, in your PowerPoint presentation, I highlight the two biggest parts of our budget, and that's our police and fire safety, as well as our highway. And the police, on the new contract, they're getting a 0% increase this year. Their salaries will freeze this year. That was part of, we had a pretty good negotiation with them, and to get the drop program, they were able to say they don't want an increase in 2014, so that was pretty big. The highway, we're still in negotiations with the highway. We'll have our second meeting next week or two, so that hopefully we'll have that in place by the end of the year. And then there's small increases for the rest of the staff, administrative staff. Our biggest thing in the police budget, I also budgeted for a police car again. I think you guys do a good job of rotating your cars, so it keeps maintenance down. The Chief Rogan does a real good job with that. One of the better towns I know with the police, they really manage their expenses well. They also manage their overtime very well. Also with the police, there's money in there for the phone system. It's $5,150. That's budgeted. It's in the miscellaneous line item 410,900. That's reflected in there. It's $5,100 a year. Let's turn my sheet. The crossing guards, a small increase for the crossing guards. We split that expense with the school district. So you'll see that 102,000 is an expense on the expense side. You'll see close to 60,000 on the income side when the school reimburses us. Our health insurance and prescription insurance across the board for everyone who's on the plan. Our health insurance went up a little over 9%, and our prescription went over over a little over 10%. Our dental insurance and vision insurance stayed flat, and then our life insurance went up 2%. And that's for everyone. It's covered under that. Our property and casualty insurances, which is our, as well as our automobile, general liability, and our workers' comp, all are budgeted at a 4% increase from the prior year. And then, we got 10 full-time police officers. The part-time police I have, their figures are based on an increase. They're going to be at $17 an hour, and I base them based on working 15 hours a week. Roughly 10, 11 part-timers working. It might be a little high, but I average about 30 hours of pay period for each part-timer. That's how I come up with that number. And it's based on historical numbers. Going back to our administration, Linda, Laura, and Tony are in there. They've done a real good job of managing our expenses in here. They do a real good job with that. And so most of our numbers in the administrative side are either a little lower than last year or right on the same amount of numbers, because they're coming in under budget on a lot of different items. From our supplies to our office equipment. I mean, we've got a copier now. It's cheaper than what we had before. It gets jammed up a little bit. So we're looking at saving costs. They're doing a good job of that. Highway department. That's the 3 full-time guys. I have roughly 2 or 3% increases in there until we get the negotiations done. That's a rough estimate. I don't think it'll be any higher than that. I also have money budgeted for our engineering services are in there. I bumped up our maintenance and repairs to some of the equipment from last year, trying to get some of the equipment fixed. We got to think about long-term getting some new vehicles there too. I mean, that'll be, hopefully we'll get, as we develop a reserve, we can start attacking some of these capital items. But they do a good job too. I mean, you guys got good workers in this borough. Going to the library section. You have the new librarian in there, as well as the library clerks. The library clerks is also based on roughly 15 hours a week. They get a small bump in their pay. You guys bumped them up last year over minimum wage. It was a pretty big jump, and then we're giving them a little increase this year. We have two notes remaining. We have the unfunded debt loan we had from a few years ago, and also we still have a firehouse loan, or I guess it's a truck. Both those loans are up in 2018, so they'll come off the books. Once we get them off the books, that frees up another $100-some thousand. So maybe we can look at a loan.
When are
there.
they coming up? 2018?
2018, I believe it is. So it'll be here before you know it, and then maybe you can target that money into some other projects for the building, because the building's going to need some work. Does anybody have any questions as we...
Hey Joe, for the police,
Yeah.
did we figure in for a new officer like we were talking about last month?
I haven't done that. I talked to Christina. I haven't done that. I mean, I part-time. The new officer would be not $60 grand. And what we could do is, I'll see where I am in the next week or two. If I see more money coming in, you could talk about that. Maybe mid-year do it, and then hire mid-year. But you're talking, $40,000 to start and at least $20,000 in Benny. So it's a $60,000 thing. We could try to do that mid-year, like you did with similar with Kessler, and then budget in for next year. Just see how the money's going for the first 6 months. But I did look at it. Now you also have one sheet. It's not on the PowerPoint, but the sewer. I'm recommending that we bump the sewer about 30 cents per 1,000 gallons, which would be like a $20 to $30 increase, depending on how much water usage you use. Because Muckapaties and Darby Creek are increasing 5 and 6% a year. We're developing a little reserve in sewer. This year I'll have all four quarters paid by the end of the year, plus with the reserve going into 2014. But I think if you bump that up a little at a time, and that's controlled, you can control that. The less water you use, the less you pay. So I know, like, a lot of times with the towns that have water usage, you actually see the water usage go down because people go around the house, make sure there's no leaks. They fill the pool up once a year, and they manage their water better. So on 100,000, if you did 100,000 gallons of water a year, you'd be paying an extra $20 to $30 a year with this increase. Anything less than that, you're paying a lot less. So, senior citizen lives by herself, they're going to not even be affected by it. And then, a family with 5 and 6 teenagers just shower for 3 hours, they'll be paying a little more. But it's a controllable thing. But it's out of our control because Muckapaties and Darby Creek doesn't ask us when they increase the rates. They just increase them.
Because it just went up too.
Yeah.
Not that long ago. Like
Yeah,
a lot.
But I think a little at a time it helps.
Are they going up again this year?
Yeah, it's
How
4 to
much?
6%. That's what I average. Yeah. The processing of sewage is getting so expensive now, I guess, and it's still, if you think about it, $300-400 to move sewage, $300-400 a year to move your sewage out of your house. It's probably one of the cheapest bills. I mean, your cable bill is probably $100 a month. It's just, but that's, and then I'm trying to develop a reserve so because some of our lines in town, it's an older infrastructure. If anything happens, in general sewer, we'll have a reserve there, and we're not looking for loans to fix things. So I think that's important we do that too. And the reserves, like I said, will all be targeted, and then hopefully next year we'll be able to do a capital budget, separate from this, targeting some of that reserve money to capital projects and equipment and so forth. But all in all, I think it's a pretty solid preliminary budget. We'll keep working on it, myself and the staff, up until possible passage of the final budget on the 18th. Also, I'd like to, the police, the MMOs went up. We passed them last month. They went up too, the police pension. And that's all state-driven. We're required by law to make sure they're funded. And that
How
was
much did that go up, Joe?
like 30 or 40 grand. It adds up. But, it's easy for me to put this together. Your staff does an excellent job, as well as council, things to residents, of managing the funds in this borough. I mean, it's I manage a few different boroughs, and this is one of the better ones. We really manage the money. It's a credit to council and a credit to the staff that they have working for them. I mean, I'm just putting the numbers together. They're the ones saving your money and trying to get you the best bang for your dollar. And, hats off to you. It makes it pretty easy.
I have a question. You said something about highway, their contract isn't done.
We're negotiating now. We're hoping it ends at the end of the year. We're hoping to have a new contract in place by 12/31. We've had a couple negotiations.
So that's in the budget, I mean.
I have a number in there. Hopefully we'll meet that number and then go from there. The benefits are in there. It's just the salary increases that we're going over, and there's a few other language issues. And hopefully we'll have that settled by the end of the year. It's only 3 people or 4 people.
He's asking about the earned income tax and the refund.
Do you have kind of an estimated number on what that would be?
No, because I don't think they know, to be honest with you, because, I don't know how you would know, because they're still probably figuring out what employers are collecting and stuff. I would assume they don't have any idea, because I'm going to try to figure that out. They're not going to know till the filing of April 15th.
Right.
Some people aren't even going to file. A lot of people don't even know they have to file that local tax. So
Right.
it could be years before that's caught up and figured out. What's going to happen, we talked about it, Cliff's talked about it, at the end of the year, getting a letter out to all the businesses, more or less informing them once again that it's only 0.5% if we stay with the 0.5%. Informing them that it's still 0.5%. Update your records. I mean, the employers should know that. It's on the website. We've made a lot of announcements on it. And when they get the forms, it's pretty easy to fill out. Most of your employees that have the ADP and paychecks, they know the towns because they get those PSD codes. And if you have a professional payroll company doing your withholding or your payroll, they're aware of the rates.
Right. And then moving forward, and again, I apologize to everybody here for being late, I was at work. It looks like the budget has in it the 0.5% to stay with the 0.5% for 2014.
Yeah, that's what I'm recommending.
Right. Now, and you probably answered this question already, but what is the mechanism for that? What do we need to do as a council to make sure that that's timely?
Well, Mary Ann brought it up, and Ray's going to check into it too. DCD may have to be we have to let them know by December 15th if we're doing that. So I'll call them and make sure that's right. And if not, you have to amend the ordinance anyway. We don't have to do a new ordinance. According to Ray, you just amend it, and we'd have to advertise that.
So the policy's different, you don't have to advertise. You can do it.
Well, you got to advertise still.
To advertise the amendment.
Just like you amended the police pension for the Trustees Act 44. So that's always to amend it, and as long as everyone's agreeable to it, I'll tell DCD we're going to stay with it. That won't be, I'll just try to see what we have to do. I'll compare it, see.
And just to ask you, again, your recommendation is a 0.5%. Do you feel like that's gonna be enough money?
Yeah, yeah, I mean, because we're gonna end up this year with a nice size surplus, and hopefully keeping that. See, what I'm trying to do is, I don't want, if you take a 0.5% out, you'll be, it'll be real tight. You won't be able to do anything. You'll be able to meet your expenses, but you won't be able to do any capital work. So, and you'll have no fund balance. And I think you have to have between a 3 to 5% fund balance at the end of the year. So on a $3 to $4 million budget, we should have, over $100,000 at least put away.
Sure.
And so with that, that gives us an opportunity to put money in reserve, and then next year on the capital budget, where we start using that reserve money to fund, vehicle expenses, without having to use general fund money. We'll just use general fund money for operating expenses, and then with the reserve, we'll use that for vehicles, for work in parks, building expenses, something over, over 10, 20 grand. And then, you build that up, you also be a better target to get a loan if you want to go get a loan or float a bond, to do sewer maintenance work. There's a lot of things you can do when we have a reserve. I mean, negative fund balances aren't going to fly. And, we won't get a good rating if we ever have to go float a bond or get a loan. So, and I'd like to take the police vehicles out of the general fund budget and target, because they have a life of longer than 1 year. So we should have a capital budget and put money in each year, and up through 10, 20 years, and budget what we want to do, and have that money stashed aside for that. It's just smart.
So you're not hitting the general fund every
Yeah, we
time you
don't,
get
yeah.
something?
And you don't have to sit and raise taxes when hey, we need a new vehicle, let's go raise taxes. No, we've been putting money aside, we'll go tap our capital fund budget to do that.
Say things like that. It's really
Yeah.
wrong.
So, exactly. But it's also, it's good sense, it makes good sense too, because why should the individuals, if you buy a truck with a 5-year life, why should you guys fund the whole thing in 1 year when people are gonna utilize it for the next 4 years? So spread that money out so everybody pays a little bit for that truck. Or you put a building up, 15, 25-year life, it shouldn't be all paid in 1 year and the residents suffer there. So you spread out amongst the residents benefit and over the 25 years.
And depreciate it, right?
Yeah, exactly, so.
I understand you keep it at 0.5, right? But why give half of that money to another borough? I mean, I don't want to be political or anything, but that's what you ran on, doing away with it. Well, we can't do away with it, we see that now. So why don't we get the money for us instead of giving half of it to somebody else?
Well, you could do away with it, but like I said, you'd be strapped.
No, Joe, I think what he's saying is going the other way.
I'm saying the other way, Joe.
That'd make my job real easy.
You would never have
I
to
don't
make
think
another
I don't
road.
think you need to do that right now. Maybe down the line you can think about doing it. I don't think you need to do it right now, because we have a surplus. Like I said, you guys are doing a real nice job managing this borough.
Joe, to follow up on that, I think what the mayor's saying is, we're losing an opportunity to gain money that's going to other boroughs
I
right now.
agree.
It's not about us having plenty of money or having funny money. It's that people are working, and I think this is what people didn't understand. They're working at Tinicum, and their tax dollars are going to further Tinicum.
Yeah.
They're going to further Alden, or whatever one of the
Sharon
32
Hill.
ones.
Media.
32, right? My question to you is, I mean, Fallcroft is in a situation where we do need things that, preventative maintenance stuff that we haven't even thought about yet. So my question is, and the mayor's question is, instead of giving that money to those boroughs, doesn't it make more sense for us to get, because we do need it. It's a luxury maybe for this budget, but it is money that is going to other towns, that they're using it. I mean, it's not like you're basically we're not raising someone's taxes through payroll, because, correct me if I'm wrong, that 0.5% is just going to where they work.
But like the fire truck, like the street sweeper that spits out not clean.
If you're working
That-
We
Sharon,
wouldn't have to make a
This-
loan for
The
that.
boilers,
I mean,
we'd have it.
Jim Eater just broke again.
You need to do a study though to see where your money's going, because I don't know how many people, I think there's a lot of people in Falkirk that work in Philly, you don't get any of that back. I don't know how many work in Wilmington, you don't get
Where
that
the
back
money
in
went to the
Sterling
last
Act.
one, we took
And
out
then you
over
gotta-
$150,000.
And you
Where'd
gotta
that
find
money
out
go?
based on what your,
We were real
senior
careful
citizen
about taking
population
out
is.
loans.
I can
Lauren,
actually
we're
ask
not
you
here to
something.
fight, we're trying to,
Hey, we ain't bringing up political, right?
we're not, we're
Okay.
trying to make money, you
Just saying.
know? I'm
But
just saying too.
I would suggest just get a study done of how much is going out to the neighboring town. Because, for example, if you had 100 people from Falkirk working in Alden, there's no taxes, you're not losing anything. We can get an idea from where people are working, and then if you have senior citizens not paying it. So 20% of the population senior citizens are not
If you
paying it.
work in Philly though, you're not paying it anyway.
That's what I mean. That's what I'm saying. How many-
Philly's exempt, so you're paying 3.9%.
Yeah, and it's nothing's coming back here. That's what I'm saying. Like,
Right.
find out what the ratio is of how much you're losing to other towns before you go back to the 1%. 'Cause we don't need it this year. But if you find out only 25% of the people are in other towns that have the 1%, you're not losing much as you think. Now, if it's 75, 80% of people, yeah, you're losing a ton of money. So that's where I can ask Keystone if there's any kind of formula they have based on their data. How many people in our town are actually working in towns with the 1%? And then the biggest concern is I think it's going to be enacted throughout the county. I mean, you're going to see more towns enacting it, and then you got to revisit your half percent to 1%.
Yeah, because Ridley doesn't even have it.
Yeah, Ridley Park doesn't have it. Ridley doesn't have it.
No.
They have a huge,
Yeah, right.
all of that. But more towns are going to see. You're going to see eventually it's going to happen.
Maybe you still have to pay the privilege.
In Chester County, I think most of the towns in Chester County have it. We're Delaware County from the few areas that doesn't have it throughout.
Right.
And Penn is the only school that gets half percentage. None of the other 13 districts even collect the tax.
So can I say something, Linda? You pay half to Fallcroft and half to where you live now. But if it had a 1% here, all of it would come here?
Here.
Okay.
No, Linda's would
No,
stay.
Linda's
Linda
would
stays.
No,
She
Linda's
doesn't
lives
live
This
here.
is where she lives.
She doesn't live in
Where she
Waldo.
Yeah.
It's where you live. Instead of getting a 1% back to her town, she's only getting a half a percent back there. Or she's paying 1%. I'm sorry.
Oh,
She didn't
so if we
fall
got
back.
rid of it, it would all go to your town?
No, if she worked, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But she's
I
not
got
paying
it.
1% here. But I think, our business privilege tax is going up too. We're doing a good
Yes.
job running that.
Jeff, can I ask another question? You're estimating about $1 million came in for 2012's EIT,
Yeah.
coming to Fallcroft. How much has come to Fallcroft for 2013 to date, of 2013 money?
We're over, I don't know what the difference is, what's 2013 and what's done 2012, because we got a big chunk in the first quarter.
Yeah.
But we're well over $700,000.
Okay, so,
But some of that's from we got the fourth quarter at 1% that we collected in January, February, and March.
yeah.
So it's a little off a little bit.
I'm just wondering if there couldn't be $200,000 or $300,000 in overpayments due to to whatever happened beginning of the year and it not being registered in time. There could be $200,000 to $300,000 in overpayments that the borough of Fallcroft has in its possession, not illegally,
No, that's
but in error. And at some point, is going to have to give that money back to
And that's
somebody.
what and I
And it
had
could be a
that-
person or it could be a municipality.
And I have that factored into what I count to 525. I don't have it 300,000. I have it close to 150.
Okay.
But I have that same ballpark because we were.
But here again, we don't know. I mean, there's
No, I don't even know if Keystone does until like I said.
until everything
start filing.
generates probably April of 24.
Yeah, April when people start filing, and some people don't even realize they have to file a local return until they file, and nobody's gonna even know if they get a refund. So a lot of people don't realize they can file a local return.
But does the borough have an obligation?
But the
Oh, yeah, we should-
municipalities.
The borough has an obligation if they have money in error to find out who it belongs to and give it back to
Yeah,
them.
and the Keystone will do that. We don't do that in-house. It's too
Okay.
complicated. Keystone will do that once they get the filing of the returns, and it's up. And the residents are obligated to file the return if they want their money back.
Joe, that's the residents, but like I work with a woman from Collingdale that doesn't have 1%. She wouldn't know to file a return unless I tell her.
Yeah, no,
People
that's,
like that, how do they get their money back?
well, it's just like,
Is that Keystone's job?
it's key, well, it's actually if they do their own returns, it's their job. If they have a professional paid preparer do their stuff, it's just like if you don't file a tax return to the feds, to the state,
Right.
you go to, you go in, they send you a call, you're responsible for filing. It's nobody else is
And we got
responsible.
we get it in the mail, the Berkheim,
But
We
yeah,
do,
you get a
but
Keystone
towns
Bank.
that don't have an EIT don't get one.
Right.
So how would they know to get their money back?
That's, I mean, we can put out as much information, but it's still the obligation of the taxpayer. Just like when you move into a
According to
town.
Keystone, when I call Keystone, there's two ways to get it back. You file a return, the way we do, or your employer has to send them a list of everybody's name, what they paid,
They have to reconcile their return.
right, and then they give it to the employer who gives it back.
And no employer.
And no employer's doing that.
No, they don't have to reconcile their quarterly return.
No.
mine's in New York.
The employers, but if the employers, if you have a professional tax,
Right.
payroll company, they should know, because all PSD codes tell you what town you're in and what the rate is. And they should know that. And if they screwed up in the first quarter and collected 1%, they should have adjusted it in the second quarter and collected nothing. And they wouldn't have been caught up. It's real
Well, maybe
simple.
we can send out some kind of letter.
We were talking about that at the end of the
Yeah,
year. At the end of the year.
educate, you
We
know
just
what I
gotta make sure we have all the business.
As we were told, they go by the register in January, and that's it.
Yes.
And I'm like, and then I went in July, well, it changed. Nope,
Now, see, mine changed, like my
my husband's changed, but
my
ours,
employer's in New York. I mean, that's where my paycheck comes from, New York. And mine changed
right in July.
Some did, some
Yeah,
didn't, and
Treasury
they,
is
some
in
checked
there.
at that
Still
beginning, yeah.
See, the school district probably
Does
does it
does
in-house,
Chester
right?
have-
They have, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's it. The in-house could probably, don't want to change.
right. That's why I said with this ordinance, if it, you know,
Well, I'll find that out when I
yeah,
call.
because if it doesn't get up there, and now you're gonna rescind it, okay, school district's not gonna take anything out, because it's not on the register, and that comes up nothing. And then what, then I get hit during the year next year, all at once?
Or,
No.
yeah, I don't know.
If
We'll
that's-
get squared away.
Yeah, I know.
Any other questions? I mean, with this budget, nothing will go up. If we're able to get it down lower, the sewer increase, and if I can get this stuff down even lower, it'll go down, but we can't, nothing will go up, no real estate tax increase. I'll get the EIT thing squared away, and there's a possible increase, like I said, of $20 to $30 on the sewer, and no trash
And
fee.
that's based on our water usage that's turned in by Aqua, right?
Yeah, and also it reflects the increase in Muckapaties and Darby Creek.
Okay.
Didn't that go up last year though? Didn't that go up like
Yeah.
33% last year?
Well, it went up, we went to the water usage, but, I mean, this will be the first time that, since I've been here, that we paid the sewer off in time, all 4 quarters will be paid, and you gotta bump it up a little bit, the processing the sewer's getting expensive, and they're hitting us, and, you know.
Oh, yeah, I understand they're getting older and older.
I figured a little time in developing a reserve there so we can fix some of the underground piping and stuff. But that is, you can control that, because the less water you use, the less you pay.
Yeah, absolutely. That's an individual person's household, you know.
Yeah,
Everybody's sewer bill will be essentially different.
base water. And there'll be no trash fee increase, because they're already.
That's still 175 then?
Yes.
I have a question with this. With their recycling, didn't some towns increase their recycling and that downsides their trash pickup?
Yeah, well, I don't know if the downside is trash pickup, but they paid less probably to the county because they took less trash out to the dump, because the recyclables, you know, not making good money on them, but it's saving money. We pay less to the county
Some
for the
towns, they cut the recyclables every week and they take the trash 32 days a week down to 1 day a week.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Fourth,
There's just less trash to buy.
yeah, most of the recyclables,
Okay.
a lot of stuff.
All right,
Increase our revenue some and decrease our trash fee.
absolutely, all right, makes sense.
So, Joe, just to wrap everything up for my small mindedness, there's no raise in taxes.
Right.
You have enough money to have a surplus at the end of the budget,
Yes.
2014 year. And
If everything stays what I have in it.
yeah, but you don't have a crystal ball. To the best of your ability to do that.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it's, like I said, it's a credit to you guys as well as the employees here. You do a nice job, a very nice job. I mean, this isn't magic. You got people that manage, you watch what you're spending, and when you do buy stuff, you're buying stuff that's needed in the borough, so it's a credit to all you guys. You know, you should tip your hats. You've been reading the paper the last 6-7 days. A lot of towns are raising taxes pretty large. Towns, which I thought had a lot of money, are raising taxes. So, you know, it's a credit to a small borough like this. And you're giving a lot of services. You got top-notch police force. You got Delmore Drive paved. You're doing something with recreation, a lot with recreation. Getting some salary increases in there. And, like I said, we're
I don't see any of that on my name.
Huh?
Salary increases.
Yeah, you guys.
Oh, that's right. We don't.
You've got more people
Poor
in
cat.
town.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
I already
Nice
tried,
job.
Jay, sorry.
You're gonna need a motion if everybody agrees.
To approve.
The preliminary budget, and Lynn's gonna advertise if you want.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the preliminary and have it put in for advertising?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
And-
Mrs. Drowsky?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Ms. Foley?
Yes.
Mr. McGuigan?
Yes.
Ms. Rafter?
Yes.
Mrs. French?
Yes.
Motion carries, and we're gonna need a motion to amend the 0.5% ordinance, EIT ordinance.
Motion.
Second.
Mrs. Drowsky?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Ms. Foley?
Yes.
Mr. McGuigan?
Yes.
Ms. Rafter?
Yes.
Mrs. French?
Yes.
And then, we're gonna need a motion to hold public hearings and voting on the ordinances, the salary ordinances and fee ordinances. I'm sorry, tax levy ordinances. Do I have a motion?
Motion, sorry.
Do I have a second?
Mrs. Drowsky?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Ms. Foley?
Yes.
Mr. McGuigan?
Yes.
Ms. Rafter?
Yes.
Mrs. French?
Yes.
Motion carries. That's it, right, Joe? Is that everything?
Yeah, they just gonna need to advertise it available for public. It's like,
All right, our next meeting is our committee meeting, which is next Tuesday at 7 o'clock. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
Motion.
Excuse my back,
Thank you.
Terry, I didn't even see
Okay,
her.
great.
Thank you.
Joe, nice job.
Wow.
So how was the Elton John?
Way to go, Cliff.
I didn't go, my ear